All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast, episode number 193. I'm your host, Bailey Eichbrett, and as always, joined by the captain, Mr. Andy Full. What's going on, dude?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just anxiously waiting to get my boat back. I think I'm going to go pick it up on either tomorrow or Saturday, but I think I'm leaning towards Saturday.
Nice, dude. Yeah, I mentioned. I remember you mentioning that you wanted to pick it up.
Yep. So I went and got it from Rochester. I dropped it off at the marina, and it got serviced, got a clean bill of health. So we're ready to go for the year.
Heck yeah, man. You excited or what?
Yeah, pumped. I'm like, I got to buy this. I got to buy that. I'm like, oh, my poor wallet. It's burning. It's burning.
Yeah, what big changes do you have coming to the Triton this year?
Right now, not too much. Waiting on a couple things. Can upgrade the trolling motor. Maybe sometime come summer, I might put active imaging on. We'll see. Or maybe get a bigger boat. Sky's the limit.
So some big plans.
Yeah. Always looking.
But in other news, you have you got some more guide trips booked today, eh?
Yeah, pending deposits, but it looks like one person is moving to 2 days. Another guy is going to book 2 days, and then another one soft confirmed for May 29th. So almost Memorial Day weekend is fully booked. So we're getting there. I think if these three confirm, that'll put me to 16 days booked, which is pretty good for the first time and not really advertising all too much. So we'll take it.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
So
you,
how's Fork?
So real quick, my Wi-Fi. What?
How is Fork?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick, I want to state it for the folks because it might happen throughout the show. My Wi-Fi is all over the place on me right now. It tells me I have full bars, but the stream tells me I have one. So Andy, I think you can hear me okay, but folks, if I get butchered at all, Andy's just gonna take over because he's got the clear audio. But dude, Fork's good. I finally caught a bass today. I decided to put the big mag draft down and pick up a jig and caught two that were 2 pounds, and Destin caught two today that were probably 10 pounds. So it's okay. We're making progress. It's just a weird fish for me to kind of adjust to and different things. I can't really make excuses for it, but either way, it kind of sums up I'm just sucking, and I got to figure out a way to not suck. So either way, it's fun just being on the legendary Lake Fork and something I've dreamed about as a kid. So it's cool, and hopefully run into one that's grown this week. Obviously, it's Destin's pre-practice. It's cool to see how he runs his course, adjusts to things, learns things on the fly. And obviously, I'm not allowed to get any input, so it's kind of cool to sit back and kind of take everything in and see his process. So It's pretty sweet. I'm really enjoying myself down here. Yeah. Heck yeah. It sounds like we might be eating up Mr. Jeff Sprague sometime this week, and Ronnie Kelly, who we obviously spoke with last week, and meeting up with them. Actually meet them in person, so that'd be cool. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. But today we're having a good buddy of ours, Mr. Steve MUI, who just had what did he go from 129th to 29th or 139th to 29th in the Open on Harris?
Yeah, it might have been 140th to 29th.
Was it 140? We'll have to bring him. Obviously, we'll bring him on in a second here, and he can confirm it for us. But we're going to talk to him about obviously about practice, about mindset, how he mentioned in Monday Night Live with Dustin, about confidence, and not spinning out if you have a bad practice, and especially for him, Steve, being in Florida, to know that just because you have a bad practice in Florida probably doesn't mean that your tournament's screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then again, I fished in Florida once. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and I know he moved down to Florida because it was his kryptonite for the longest time. So, and I still don't think he has full confidence in Florida, but we'll ask him about that as well.
Heck yeah. Yeah, and I think that's going to be a great conversation. I fished in Florida once, so I have no input. And the one time I fished in Florida was with Steve. So he showed me around a little bit, but it's a whole new ball game. But I think without further ado, let's bring him in. Our good buddy here, Mr. Oh, wait, hold on. Our stream's being stupid on me. Here we go. Mr. Steve MUI. What's going on, dude?
Hello.
Steve, I think the one time the one and only time you were on the show, it was through the phone call, I think, and I recorded it. I streamed it just on myself through the phone.
That was last year, I think, around the time, I believe. So
it was a long time ago. Yeah,
it was a long time ago for sure. I think I'm pretty sure it was last year. So it's been a while.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely before episode 100. So
yeah, I don't remember.
Long was for that.
Maybe like it was probably like 100 episodes ago.
Something like that. It was before 50, I believe. It was something. Yeah, it was a while ago. But now the folks can actually see Steve's face and put face to words.
And Carter.
That was Carter. Cruising. He got annoyed because I started talking. He was laying sleeping.
Buddy.
You don't want to hear his voice. He sounds like he gets his grumpiness from his dad.
Oh yeah, doesn't get his sleep, doesn't get his food, he gets grumpy. So. I think that's everyone.
Well, dude, confirm for us. Yeah, right. Confirm for us your jump from day 1 to day 2 in the Open on a Harris.
So day 1, I had 8 pounds, and I only had 4 fish, which is pretty sad. But I had a 4.5 pounder to kind of anchor me, and somewhat saved the day a little bit. And I believe I was in the 140s or something. I was actually so disgusted I didn't even look. But from what I heard, I was around the 140 mark in there. But I was first flight to first day, so I had 245 weigh-in? Yeah, 245 weigh-in. And I wasn't locking, but I was making a decent run, going through a bunch of no wakes. And I didn't start fishing till we launched at 6:45, and I didn't start fishing till like 7:30, 7:45. So you're quick. So day 1 was it was a blur. It flew by and fished really frantic all day. So, yeah, I don't really want to talk about day 1 too much, but made a lot of mistakes, did a lot of stupid stuff, and only came in with 4 fish. I had the bites for 5 fish, but I was throwing a big worm, and you really got to it was post-frontal. We just had a big cold front go through. It was in like the 50s that morning, maybe even colder. And it had been in the mid-80s all week leading up to that. So those fish were a little pissed off. That big worm I was throwing, you really got to let them eat it if they're like smaller ones. And by small, I mean like 2-pounders, like 2-pound class fish. But I had a couple bites where I just got too excited, set the hook way too soon, and bring in your bait. And sure enough, the teeth marks are literally right behind where your hook point is. Mm-hmm. You guys know exactly what that happens when that. Mm-hmm. And it's just man, if you just let them eat it for a split second longer, you would have got them. But yeah, 8 pounds, 140 something, day 1. Threw the boat on the trailer, went back to the house, didn't even touch a fishing rod, just went inside, made some food, just took a nap. And it was done early. I was back at the house, 2:45. Yeah. 2:45 weigh-in. I was back at the house by, I think, a little before 4. And I hadn't been off the water before 6:30 every night. So what do you do? I got a bunch of junk food, just sat at home, and just kind of thought about man, what can I do to make my day better tomorrow? Save my season really, because we only fish for 3 tournaments, and you have one bad day, you kind of feel well, crap, I screwed my whole season.
Right. So how was your practice leading up to day 1? Were you confident going into day 1? You're I can do this, or? Where you
actually, Florida, like you said, has been my kryptonite. And last year I did well in Toho. I actually finished 30th there. But other than that, Florida, I've always finished real bad, like hundreds, triple digits. And I was afraid I was going to do that again this time. But leading up to this tournament, since I live down here now, I was able to go pre-practice, and on the weekend go over there. Granted, 2 weeks out during a spawn is not really going to do you much if you see like some nice 3 and 4 pounders on beds, or you find them like up shallow or something. It's not really going to help you 2 weeks later, but just getting an understanding of what the fish are doing and catching a couple fish here and there helps for sure. So I've been going, and it was real cold for most of January, and then it started like warming up, and we were on a massive warming trend up until the tournament. And it was actually like in the 80s during practice.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, hot all day, sunny, low winds. I think only 1 or 2 of those days I couldn't go out way offshore on like any of the worry about the wind at all. It was only a few of those days. And it was like, I don't want to say I'm a practice champion because I hate when people do that, but I had a really good practice. That I got there the Friday before the tournament, and I was just bouncing around at 18 pounds. Saturday, bounced around 17 pounds. Sunday, I think it was Sunday, I went to a Popka. I caught like 1 fish. But then I was like, well, that sucked. Just threw that away. And then after that, practice just started to get tougher and tougher, but I was trying new stuff. And then one day I found a school of fish on a jerkbait, and I was on the phone with my buddy, and I literally caught 15 in 15 casts. And, some of them were those little peanuts, but a lot of them were keepers.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going into it. I was confident. I'm like, there's no way I'm not going to at least catch a 6 to 8 pound limit, 5 fish, 12 inchers, but I didn't. I caught 4.
So one more would have pumped you up probably.
I mean, one more 12 incher would have gave me 9 pounds if you think about it. But I mean, one more 3 pounder and I'm fishing day 3.
Probably.
After it's all said and done. But
if you let them eat that worm just a half second longer, right?
Yeah, because I've been thinking about it, like, because after every tournament, I think about, man, if I caught every fish, would I have? And I think it would have been close because, a 7-8 inch worm is a big bait, and you do catch little ones on it. You do catch like the 1 and 2 pound fish, but you usually don't get like 10 inchers on a 8 inch bait. So I was at least thinking like those 2 bites were keepers. And I had one really, really small one in my bag on day 1. Like one that was like 12 and a half.
Line burning?
Yeah. And that's like maybe, 12 ounces?
Yeah, if that. Because I'm sure Florida fish are long and skinny, even at 12 inches. They're like paper thin, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. But I was lucky. I was fishing offshore day 1, and I was able to get one of the bites in the boat, and it was a 4.5 pounder on that big worm. So that kind of saved my day. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just like going into day 1, I was confident, like you were asking, and I was just like, man, I'll get a limit. And I was looking at these because, day 1 flight is flight 1. I was boat number 5. So flight 1 is due 2:45.
Mm-hmm.
So then day 2, I'm last flight, and my check-in time is 5:55 p.m. So it's like a 3 hour and 10 minute difference. It's actually huge on fishing time, right? But it does a lot to your head. You're just 10 o'clock on day 1, and I had 3 little fish.
Yeah, 11:30.
Yeah, 11:30 I have 3 little fish, and it's like, man, I only have 2 hours more to fish because it takes me 45 to an hour to get back. You're just thinking like you have 3 fish, but then like day 2 at 11:30, I'm like, oh, I still got 6 hours to go.
Yeah,
that's a whole day.
That's awesome.
It changes your mind, your brain, your mindset.
So kind of going back to that 4.5 pounder on day one, would you say that allowed you to almost stay on? Did you stay on that pattern day two? And did that 4.5 pounder allow you to stay confident in what you were doing? And be like, if I can capitalize and get the right bites doing what I'm doing and put them in the boat, I can make a big jump on day two.
Yes and no. For some reason, I felt like that bite was getting away from me. And I think it's because we had this day two, we had a strong north wind.
Mm-hmm.
I figured, they just weren't really biting that good. But then, or day one was the north wind, and that day two, we had like kind of the wind kind of laid down. And it was just bright and sunny, and it was warmer. And the air felt different. And I don't really know how to explain this, but like nature tells you what's happening. Like day one, it was cold, windy, like nothing was happening. I didn't see any alligators. I didn't see any birds really moving around.
It was stagnant.
It was stagnant. Like it was just cold and it was just miserable. And even the fish that, I did catch, they were kind of like, I don't know. I mean, and then day two, when I got out there, just everything felt different. The birds were moving around. I saw a bunch of gators throughout the day that day. Oh, there's one thing I want to bring up, though. Day one, because I ran from Harris to Dora, and idling through the Dora Canal, I saw millions of shad spawning on all the cypress trees. Every tree had just shad spawning all over them, and I'm just like, shad spawn. I totally missed that boat. But day two, I didn't see a single shad at all going through that same exact canal. And it was only like, I was only maybe like 40 minutes later, 50 minutes later, day two. So it just shows like how much stuff changes.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like rambling, but yeah, I just felt stuff changed completely on day two.
Yeah.
So just kind of, and my results from day one were just bad. So I just kind of was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a little time because that's what happened for me in practice. And then I just kind of abandoned it and went and did some crazy stuff. So.
Fair enough. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bailey.
I was just going to say, like, when you felt those, the things changing on day two, did you make any adjustments to your presentations or maybe some things that you had rigged up? Like, were there any big changes in how you approach those fish?
Baits and presentations, not really, but it was more of changing my location. And I did pick up a prop bait that came up huge for me on day two. So let me I guess the best way to do this is just go through my day. So day one, took off, got through all my locks, but all my idles, because the chain is like, you feel like you're running forever there. But really, I only went like 15, 20 miles or whatever. Because you go run across Harris, and then you go through the Dead River, and then you got to run across Tungsten, and then you go through the Dora Canal, and you're really not running that much. You're just idling forever. So I get to my spot day one, and like third cast, I caught like a keeper 14-incher. So I was like, cool, fishing around, nothing. Went to my next spot, keeper like 12-incher, the little one, and then stuff. And then he's like chewing on a table. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
You hear it? He's like licking his toy. Hey, stop. Sorry. Edit this out. But yeah, anyway, day one was just like a blur. Yeah, it was just like, and I don't really know how to explain it. Like I bounced around, went to a bunch of spots. I fished offshore mostly because I really felt like that offshore game, offshore grass was going to be the way to win it or do well. And I just kept bouncing around, and spot after spot after spot was just like not working. And I finally caught that big one at like, I don't know, 11:30 or 12. And I was like, oh man, this is just a gift. This fish is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And the more and more I thought about it throughout the day, I'm like, oh, I should run shallow. Like something in my gut was saying like, Steve, go shallow, catch a keeper, go throw a stupid Senko, catch a keeper. But no, I was like, I'm just going to go bounce around and eventually, hopefully I'll just catch one nice, 2.5 to 4 pound fish offshore. And it never happened. So, like I said, I went home, I was all pissed off, and day 2 happens, and it's like, I can't explain this feeling I got. Like, I woke up that morning, and I was just literally like, whatever, whatever happens. Like, I'm just going to go have fun. I'm going to go catch as many fish as I can, just enjoy the day. It was a warmer day. The winds shifted out of the south, so we had warmer air come in, and you just felt it got warmer quicker. Like by like 8 o'clock, I was already taking off the bibs and stuff, and the day before I was wearing my warm clothing like the whole day basically. But yeah, and then day 2, I rolled up to my first spot where I caught that first one the day before, nothing. Second spot, nothing. Third spot, nothing. But I was like through 5 spots and never had a bite. And I was just like, well, shit, And
let's not chase ghosts. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And at that exact point, I was just like, you know what? You're either gonna sink or you're gonna swim. Like literally, is like you're gonna keep doing this all day and hope you get 4 bites like yesterday. Are you hoping you catch 8 pounds tomorrow or like yesterday? It's like, no, I'm going to go do something and just at least go have fun. So I pick up a prop bait at like 10:30 or 10 o'clock or something like that. And I just had this like little area along this edge where I'd seen some beds, but I hadn't seen any fish really. And I was like, screw it. I threw this prop bait over there and like, it was just sitting there, and I twitched it like 2 or 3 times, and it was literally just sitting there for like, I don't even know how long. I was like watching birds or something. This is how like zoned out I was. I was just like, you know what? It's beautiful out, whatever. And this fish freaking smokes it. And I just like don't even have time to react, and I just start reeling. And this fish has this prop bait head first in its freaking throat, all 3 hooks in it. And I freaking boat flipped it. It was like a 3 1/4. I was like, cool. I caught one, but it was just like, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Go around the corner and start fishing this weed edge I hadn't fished at all ever. I threw the prop bait out there and twitched it like 2 times and poosh, one smoked it. I was like, okay, catch that fish, throw in there, next cast. Like didn't even move it. Just clicked the reel and was like waiting for the ripples to go away and went poosh, one smokes it. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like this is fun. If I catch 10 pounds doing this is still fun as hell.
Yeah.
And I'm fighting that fish and it freaking jumps straight up like a smallmouth. You know, a smallmouth will literally just jump straight up.
Yeah.
Florida fish like to do that too. But it comes off. I was like, oh, well, that sucks. And it was like 11:30 at that point. I'd been fishing that prop bait around for a while. I had 2 solid ones, like a 3 1/4 and like a 2 1/2. So I went back to where I caught the 4 1/2 pounder because you have to check it, right? And I'm fishing this big worm around and I'm not getting any bites. I'm just fishing it around. And then finally I get a bite. And what do?
Set the hook too soon.
Set the hook way too soon. I just felt this fish eating it. And I was like, oh, I got him. Set the hook. Came back, teeth marks right behind the hook point. And so at that point, it was maybe, I think it was like 12:30 or something. But I was relaxed. I was like, whatever, like I'm going to catch some fish today and I'm going to go just do whatever and catch some fish because and 12:30, it's like, I got 5.5 hours still basically.
Right.
I was like, I ran all the way to this little backwater that I hadn't even fished for like 2 weeks. I fished it like 2 weeks ago at pre-practice and caught some in there on a wacky rig. And I went in there and went down the one bank and caught 3 keepers on a wacky rig. nothing big, but 3 keepers. And I'm like, oh, I got a limit. Why couldn't I do this yesterday? It just felt like it was so much easier that day for some reason. And then at that point, I was thinking, well, I got one solid one that I wouldn't be embarrassed to weigh in, that 3-pounder. And then I got 4 little ones. I got 4, 2.5, and then 3, like, you got to bump them. So they're small. And then I found, like, I'm going down the bank and I find a fish on a bed. And I'm just like, do I fish for this thing? And I see it pull up there. I'm like pitching at it. And then, like, I feel something like I fished for it for like an hour. This thing was only like 2.5, 3 pounds. And I was like, what am I doing? And then finally, like, I'm pitching and I feel something like hit my line. I set the hook. I snagged the male in the back. So I reel it in. I'm like, well, crap, snag the male. Throw it back in.
And the female pulled on.
The female pulled up, and this was like the weirdest fish ever. Like, it would pull up there, it'd chase bluegills, try and eat bluegills, and it would nose down on my bait, and then it would just like swim away. Like, it would nose down on it, and it'd get scared and like swim away. So I did this for like an hour, and then I was like to my coach, I'm like, that fish isn't gonna win me anything anyway. I need to leave. So I leave, and I run like way up this creek, like way in the back. I hadn't caught any fish in there in practice. I caught one. Actually, in practice, I caught one nice like 4-pounder on a frog, like way in the back of this thing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go back there. It was like 2 o'clock. It was hot. The sun was out, and there's nice shadows on their docks and stuff. So I just start throwing a frog around, and I get a nice one on a frog, like not big, like a 14-incher to replace my 12-incher. Huge culls.
Yeah.
But and then I'm just going down the bank, and there was like hard shadows, from the trees because the sun was so high. And I was just thinking, like, if a fish moved up, it's probably sitting over here somewhere. And I just was like looking down, and this was so funny. This sounds so stupid, but I'm looking and I got like 20 rods on my deck, right? And I look down, and my freaking prop bait is literally like shining in the sun, like reflecting light into my eye, like it's a sign. Like in a video game when you like are going on an adventure and things like blowing or whatever. I picked that thing up and I threw it, like I made like this sweet cast between these, like there was 2 big trees. There was like one on this side, one on that side, and there was just like an opening, and there was like a little shoreline grass. And I threw the prop bait in there. This thing hits the water, and I don't even move it, and I see something on the bank like kind of move, like pretty close to the bank. I'm like, what was that? And I twitch it twice, and this thing freaking unloads on it. Wakes from like 6 or 8 feet away, just like a shark. And I was like, oh my God, it's a big one, I think. Because, like when you're fighting them, you're like, they feel big on the, a top water rod.
Yeah.
This thing jumps. And it was like probably a 4.5, 4.25. Freaking jumps. I'm like fighting it, and my co-angler's on the back, like saying, it's going to get stuck in the lily pads. I'm like, dude, I got 40-pound braid. It could do whatever it wants to do. It actually does get stuck in like a pad, like, but like, I'm like, whatever, it's not going to come off. It had the thing swallowed too, just like the 2 in the morning. Mm-hmm. I eventually get in the boat, and it was like a 4. It was like 4.25 maybe. So I called a 12-incher with a 4.25. And then at that point, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can make something happen today. But it was still had like 2 or 3 hours left to fish. So I was still like, whatever, just as fun.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, I should go back to fish some of that grass and stuff again. But then I came out of that canal, and I was running back to where I caught that 4-pounder, and I was like going to stop, and I was like, for some reason, I was just, no, don't stop there. I just kept driving. And then I got to the canal to go back through to Dora, and I'm running down the lake, and I'm like, maybe I'll go in that backwater area because there's some nice like canals and stuff down there. And I was like, maybe I'll stop over there. and just throw that prop bait around and see if I could call up to, you know, like 13, 14 pounds. And I was like, just thinking about this is like all the stuff like going through my head as I'm driving, you know. And I'm just like, you know what? I had a couple bite. I had one bite on this one dock in practice. It was like 6 o'clock. I was gonna go in, and it was just like, you know, I'm just gonna run a bunch of docks to see if I can get bit. And there was one dock, like kind of close to a point where I had a bite. I had one bite, and it felt like a good one because those big fish, like the 4-pound class fish, you know when it's a good one. They hit that big worm because they just thump it and they swim away with it. And I had one of those bites in practice, and I actually shook it off. And you know, like, you know what? Maybe I'll pull up there. Maybe it was, I don't know. Maybe it's on a bed, or you know, maybe it's some stupid one. I pull up there, fire my worm in there, first cast. Doesn't even hit the bottom. I'm like, I think something just bit it. And I like reel down. I like go to move it, and then like a line swimming off. And I set the hook. It was like 4.5. Get that fish in the boat. I'm already freaking out because now I have 2 4s, a 3, a 2, and like a 14-incher. And I'm like, this is way bigger than I had the day before, you know? I re-rig. I throw back in there. Very next cast, another 4-pounder. And I'm like doing the bass track thing, and my phone's going off. And my friend's like, dude, what? You had 11 pounds like 10 minutes ago. Now you got 16, you know? Like, and I'm just like looking at these messages and like canceling. I'm like, I don't want to open this shit because you can't like, you're obviously not supposed to like text your friends and stuff.
Yeah.
But you see it come up on your thing. So I'm doing the bass track. And then, so I get those 2 4s, and I'm like, oh shit, I got a pretty good bag. I got 3 4s, a 3, and like a 2. Well, I already got rid of the 14-incher at that point. So I had a 2.5, and then 3 that were like 4 something, and then a 3-pounder. And I get up there and I like fire it in there again and catch a 3-pounder. And I was like, this is awesome, you know? And my coach was back there. He had one fish, and he's throwing some weird like lizard thing in there. And I'm like, I'm in a good mood at this point. I'm screaming, you know, having a good time. And like, dude, throw this in there. I give him one of the worms. He throws it in there. He catches one, and then catches another one, breaks one off. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, but we're having a good time. You know?
What are you doing?
But and people will probably be like, why did you give your coingler stuff? You know, because I've been there. I know what it's like to sit back there and just get your ass handed to you. And it's like, you're already in the back, first of all. And then, you know, like he zeroed the first day and he had one little 12-incher, you know, and I was just like, you know what, just catch some fish. But there's one thing I have learned in Florida with these like spots at big schools and stuff like this. It turned out to be like a shell bar, I would guess, because after we got a bunch of bites, was able to like drag my stuff through there, and you can feel like the shell and stuff. But I've learned, my buddy taught me this down here, is like when you get a good spot like that, like a shell bar or something hard, the biggest fish usually bite first. And it's become true. Most of the spots I fished, it's become true. But it's pretty cool. I mean, and then I just was like all happy. I came in at 19.4.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, like I said, I think it was 145 or something like that, all the way up to 29th. It was just an amazing feeling. And it's crazy because that's what we all live for, right? We don't live for the, like, that feeling you get when you, like, it's you can't even describe it. Like the feeling you get when you know you just wrecked them and you just like changed your whole, you know, because that just changes my whole year.
Yeah.
You know, in the 140s, you're like, screw it, go home. You have 0 chance at points. Because, you know, for the elites, you're only taking top 3.
Mm-hmm.
And be like top 4 or 5 if like an elite guy or something, you know, finishes
top 3, yeah.
But I've been around long enough where, you know, I understand that, you know, if you don't cash a check in everyone, you don't have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Just that 29th versus that 145, it's just like this feeling of like, oh God, you know, and I just can't even describe the feeling of just coming in with a big bag like that on day 2. It's just so amazing. And it's just like, that's what we live for, you know, to be able to just, you know, walk up there, drop a big bag on the scale, and it was just amazing. And it's like, why can't I do that every day? You know, why was I able to fish so relaxed,
Like free.
and just like free and just, whatever, like have fun? It's like we do it for fun. Why do we put so much pressure on ourselves? Why do we get so worked up if we lose a freaking 14-incher? Stuff like that. It's like, man, I'm really trying to channel that. Like, how do you get yourself to fish free like that from day one start, zero time, like from then till the end? Because I know I fish better. I fish way better when I'm just like out there having fun, screwing around. And like,
I think all of us could say that you always fish better when you feel free. And so I guess you can almost go back to day one, and you can almost pin it on yourself by not trusting your gut and having a little bit more of like that free spirit, I guess, to you, right? Because you gotta make this work instead of your guts telling you to go up shallow and just catch another keeper.
Right. My gut told me so many times on day one too, is like, hey, you idiot, go catch a freaking 14-incher on a dang wacky rig.
Yeah.
You're not going to win any awards, but you're going to have 5 fish, and you're not going to feel like an idiot when you come in. It's just like, why didn't I listen to myself? I did it on day 2. I culled probably 6 or 7 fish on day 2, and I had a limit way before the 145 time that I had to leave day 1. I was culling by then.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy because, and we were all guilty of it. Like, how do we get ourselves to fish like free and clear like that? And it's like,
question would be then, what would you say is a good way for people to catch themselves from spinning out? So like you're going day 1 and you're stuck in the motion, right? You're like, I got to make this work. I got to make this out. And all of a sudden you have an hour to run and you're just running all over the place, right? And it doesn't work. So how to stop yourself from spinning out, do you try to push yourself to fish more freely, I guess is what I'm asking. Do you think that'd be more beneficial for everyone, not including yourself, or including yourself?
Yeah, I just think you need to, because everyone's afraid to fail, right?
Yeah.
No one wants to fail. And acting like that and trying so hard not to fail is ultimately your reason for failing, I think, a lot of times. And I know I'm guilty of that. And I know like you said, day 1, I just try to force it. I'm like, this has got to work. This is how you catch the big ones. It's like, man, you didn't need a big one. You need a 14-incher. You only have 4.
Yeah.
Just start with that. Do that.
You're stressing out about getting that 5th fish. If you would have just went and caught it, you might have been able to go back out and actually feel that bite.
Exactly.
Wait a half second longer to set the hook.
Or go try something new and catch freaking 2 4-pounders and back cast. Something like that. I drove by that spot day 1 2 times.
We're like, there's nothing there.
Yeah. I wish I stopped there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, would I have caught 19 pounds day 2 had I had a good day 1? Probably not. I probably would have stayed out there and just, that bite went away. I know that bite went away.
You've just been chasing ghosts.
Yeah, it was, because it was like 2 weeks ago out there. It was like, that was the deal. And then even in practice, it was like, it was okay. I caught a big one. I caught a 6-pounder out there. I had a buddy actually caught a 9-pounder doing it. So it was like, oh, it's still kind of good. But it's like, that was 3 days ago.
Yeah. I guess when you get 480 or 580 degree days in a row, they're going to be running to the bank probably. You might have something back out, but not that fast.
Yeah, I just, that weather was weird that week. It was like, it wasn't an extreme cold front, but it is still Florida, so like it still messes with them. Like it went from like, I was going out there shorts and my sun hoodie like first thing in the morning every day, and never having to put anything else on. And then day 1 of that tournament, I'm putting my bibs on, I'm putting my hoodie on, I'm putting on my jacket on, and I'm still cold. But it's like it's just weird. I don't really know what they were doing. And then I think they were still moving up on beds.
Mm-hmm.
So like I saw some new fish on bed on that day 2 that I didn't see all through practice, and then that day 1.
Gotcha. So this might be a little bit more of a tough question for you. So when you look at it, because I know you fish like a Tuesday night series and
Yeah.
close to you. So how do you approach a Tuesday night tournament as opposed to an open? Like, what is your confidence level? How do you prepare for that? Are you more free for that Tuesday nighter, and then because of
Yeah.
the on the line, you tend to tighten up on those Bass Opens? I would assume, right?
See, like the thing about the Tuesday nighters, there's no
Pressure.
consequence to failure. It's like you go out, you have a 3-hour tournament, and you either catch them or you don't, and you go home.
Yeah.
You don't, even if you win what, $200 or $300, and it's like woohoo. But
Yeah, funny.
yeah, but if you suck, it's just like, oh, I sucked, and you're bullshitting with your buddies, and you're like, you sucked tonight, you didn't catch anything. It's like, oh, But like in an open, it's like, oh man, you got the classic berth, you got 50 grand, you got 200 boats, you got all this media, you got all this stuff. But at the same time, it's like, if you know you do better fishing like a Tuesday nighter, why not you just got to try to take that same approach to an open. And the more I had this discussion with my friends too a lot, and it's like, if I look back on all the opens, not saying like I'm like freaking, the guy or whatever, but like I fished quite a few, I fished 20 some events, and I've cashed in, quite a few, but
you've had a couple close calls too where you've almost won, right? Up here in New York.
Yeah, on Champlain I got second one year. And that goes back to fishing free. My 2 top 10s are Oneida and Champlain, and I said Champagne because I was popping bottles that night, but no. But like, dude, like going into those 2, I just remember like Champlain was the number 3 tournament of the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was already like, I already did so bad I wasn't even gonna fish that tournament. I had the James River, I was like 100 something, and then Oneida 100 something, because everyone caught like 15 pounds of smallies that year. Like 15 pounds of smallies each day was like 90th place that year or something.
Yeah, I remember that was what, 4 years ago or 5 years ago?
Yeah, it was wild. It was like, if you didn't have 17 pounds of smallies a day, you didn't get paid.
Yeah.
It was just insane. It was just fishing really good. And of course I sucked. I tried to catch largemouth and it didn't work out for me. But the 2 top 10s that I had, like that year, Champlain, I got second, and I literally was just like, I was rooming with Craig DePalma and Jamie Hartman, and we were just like hanging out, and I know they were having good practices because they're good up there. And I was like, I'm just, I'm having a good time. Like I'm catching some fish here and there. And I still remember like going into that tournament, it was like, you're at one of the best lakes in the dang country. Like, just go have fun. Go catch a bunch of fish and see what happens.
Yeah.
That's what I did. Day 1, I pulled up to one of my spots, and like I had only caught like a couple small out there in practice, and I like caught like 30 that first day off that spot. Like 17 pounds in the first like 2 hours or something. It was wild.
And now also super loose because you're like, oh, I've already exceeded my expectation.
It's like, I'm going to go over here and see if I can catch one over here. You catch a 4-pound smallmouth. And I'm like, oh, I know people catch big largemouth in the gut, and no one's over there. I'm going to go over there, catch a 4-pound largemouth. Just like, all right. And then I had like 19 the first day, 18 the second day, and 20 the third day, and got second. But it's like, I literally was just like, I'm just going to go have fun. And there was no consequence to me doing bad, because there's no points on the line. You already spent the money to get there, so like that's gone. So it was just fun, and then obviously I found some good fish and then did well. But it's like, that was my best finish in the open, second. And then my 10th place at Oneida was the same thing. You know, I did okay at the James, and that was the year I almost made the elites. I finished 6th in points, and that 10th place at Oneida, I was doing what I wanted to do. I wanted to fish for largemouth, and it's like, I'm gonna go over here, flip this. I'm gonna go over here, do this. I'm gonna go over here, do this, and it just worked out. And you just fish so free and just carefree whenever and have fun. And I did better.
Yeah.
The other one that I really did was the Bass Fest when they at Chickamauga with the elite guys. And I was talking to one of my good buddies going into that, and he's like, dude, no one knows who you are. They're not even gonna know you're fishing the tournament. Like, who cares if you come in 100th or whatever? Just go have fun. And that's exactly what I did. And I cashed a nice check. I got a top 20. I think I got 18th. So I mean, it was just like, you gotta like try and I'm just been thinking like taking this, you know, free attitude and just like confidence to every event. And it's like, how do you do it?
It's like, I'm gonna catch them, but I'm not gonna dictate how to catch them. So I fall into a trap of, this is what we want them to do, so we have to force feed them it, and we almost have to trust our gut because our inner instinct always seems to prevail like 90% of the time. So it's, if you trust your gut and without spinning out, I mean, like if your gut tells you to go deep, shallow, docks, trees, you might spin out that way. But if that one decision clicks and works, then you're all of a sudden you're like, all right, let's run with it.
Yeah, just make a decision and be able to live with it. You know, and it's tough because you don't want to fail.
Right.
But like, you're gonna fail anyway if you start, you know, not taking chances sometimes. So it's just like confidence is just like a weird thing, you know.
Yeah. But correct me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of times we learn more from our failures than when we win.
Oh, 100%. Definitely, for sure. Failures teach you more. I mean, it's like crazy. Fishing is just like the highest of the highs and lowest of the lows.
Yeah.
I mean, I experienced that this week. It was like, you just spent all this money and now you're 100 and something. And it's like, man, what are you going to do? I was like, oh, you want to hear something funny I did? This is kind of embarrassing. I don't even know if I want to say this.
That's fine. Go ahead. We're not live.
Day 2, I roll up my coingler. I get there at like 6. I got there at like 6. Launch is at like 6:45. Everyone's in the water already. I'm boat like 213 or something, 218. I put the boat in, you know, I'm just whatever. Kind of annoyed that I'm even there because I did so bad the day before. And I start the boat, I back it off the trailer, and I'm floating there, and I'm eating a Pop-Tart. I'm just like chilling. I look down at all my gauges. I forgot to put gas in the boat. So I'm just like, that looks
that's not good.
That's only half a tank. I was like, oh well. That was another thing. I didn't even care. I was like, oh well. I mean, you know what I mean? And then I came back, and I still have a quarter tank in that thing right now. So I mean, it's just like a stupid thing that I don't know. I just didn't put gas in the freaking boat, but it worked out.
Yeah,
I would have been kind of pissed
a few times. Like, I did it last summer actually. One of the Finger Lake tournaments we fished. I thought I had like somewhere between a quarter and a half a tank, and I put it in. And I started up, and it's like a 16th, and I'm like, where did this gas go? So I ran to my first spot in the fish, and we get 2 bites, like 2.5 hours. I'm like, well, there's a marina back there where gas is $5 a gallon. I'm gonna go put $50 in so we can run all the way south. And I'm just like wasting an hour of my day getting gas during the night.
And I was on my phone like looking up gas for like Harris Chain. I'm like, I don't even know if there's gas here because I'm not an idiot and I usually don't have to get it. You know, you have to try hard to burn a whole tank of gas on the Harris Chain.
Yeah.
You don't fill up the night before, you might need it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it worked out.
There was one less thing you had to worry about.
Yeah.
Really?
Isn't there a correlation kind of going back to the spinning out thing, like a correlation between the guys that have a horrible practice and just fishing free on tournament day because they had a horrible practice, so they're just going to go fish new water.
Right? You hear that a lot, right? Like, I had a terrible practice. I'm going to zero.
Yeah.
And then they come in with like 22 pounds. It's like, really? You didn't have a terrible practice. But it's like, really? Yeah, I did. You know? I've had some tournaments where I'm like, oh, I'm going to smash them. Like, oh, shit. Especially in those Tuesday nighters. Man, I'm gonna crush them tonight, and then you catch like one fish. Like, oh, well.
I actually like having a tough practice because you can narrow so much water out. I don't like pulling up and catching a fish everything I do because I'm like, what do I do? I prefer
really
practice.
I really do agree with that too, especially in Florida. I've learned down here is like, if you get around some fish, you're around fish.
Mm-hmm.
You can go, there's been practice days where I will go 6-hour periods and not get a bite. And then you get into a little stretch and you get like 6 or 7 bites. And it's weird how they do that down here. You know, because there are like other lakes, you know, where you can just like go down the bank and you know you're going to catch a couple here and there, but it's not like you can go back there and there's more fish there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm trying to think of what lakes, but I guess a good example would be like if you're going down the bank flipping laydowns. Like if you catch one off a laydown, odds are you caught the fish that lives there, right? But it's like Florida that's with this grass and everything. You get one bite and like a bite. You get a bite in like 4 foot and like a grass flat or something. You just fished 500 yards of grass and no bites. There's probably 100 fish right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just wild. They bunch up. But
I think that to like any grass fishery, it's really like that for the most part. Because when I practice and I'm like fishing grass, I will not fish the stretch in the tournament where I didn't get bit. I will go right to that waypoint and I'll try to mark like an area where I got one bite as I'm going through, and then where the last bite came, and I try to stick in that general area because I'm like, well, I just wasted my entire practice looking for these fish and they're in 2 spots. Why not just stay right here?
Yeah,
that's usually way better for you.
It's funny how you mentioned that, how like the whole grass flat, you know, like what I like to do down here, like for example, I was fishing Beauclair, and it's like a big, basically a giant bowl with a couple rises and a little couple deeper spots, but it was all grass, like the whole thing. And throughout practice, as I fished around, you know, these huge areas, every time I catch a fish, I just throw a waypoint down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's a bite, throw a waypoint down. And then by the end of, you know, fishing like a whole 3 or 4 mile area, you look on your graph and you got little circles on your thing of waypoints. And it's just like section here, section here, section here. And you'll start to see like, oh, they were right there in that little section. So, I mean, that's what I like to do. I know a lot of guys probably do something similar, but they definitely, I don't know what it is. At the bottom or something, but this is just so weird how these like big grass flats, they'll get on one little spot. It could really be like a rock that's slightly more orange than the rock next to it.
Well, I don't know a lot about Florida, but I know a lot of the lakes are relatively flat for the most part, correct?
What's that?
Like the contours are pretty spaced out, so the whole lake and like grass and stuff is relatively flat. So there's got to be like where you get that bite, there's like a little trench or a shell bar or something, just something a little different to hold them there.
Yeah, a lot of lakes down here are shaped like a giant bowl.
Yeah, and they're mud.
Mostly like mud or muck and sand.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they'll relate to the sand a whole lot more than the muck because they don't like that muck in their gills and stuff.
Yeah.
But was that Destin? Destin walk in there?
Was. Yeah, he's getting his study game on in the other room here. We're probably we're gonna get off here in a little bit, and then we're probably gonna watch some live coverage, get some study game on, and yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, it's, I feel like with that Florida grass game, it's like when you find them, you're just making that same cast over and over again.
Yeah, there really is. The only thing I could really make it kind of related to is like, those ledge fish. You get on that one cast deal, like on ledges. It's like a similar type thing. You hit that sweet spot, you get bit. So,
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other points you got for Steve?
So this might be a little random, like confidence question, but when you approach a tournament, do you approach to hopefully get 5 in the boat first, or do you just try to get the 5 biggest bites that you possibly can throughout the day? So it's kind of like a cliche thing, but are you trying to put a limit in the boat to fill your confidence so you can be more free? Like, now I just got to call out a couple, or do you specifically for the 5 biggest bites?
So I know a lot of people talk about this. This is a topic that's always, brought up. For me personally, I'm always just like catch every one of those little,
Yeah.
I can't even swear, but catch every dang fish you can catch, and just catch as many, catch. Like if you get 30 bites, if you get 6 bites, catch them all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to like, I'm only going for big ones. I'm just trying to catch as many dang fish as I can, because eventually, you're going to get the bag you want.
Right.
Because if you're confident in what you're doing, like I don't really try and go for like 5 big ones that are like that. I hate this when people say I swing for the fence. It's like, dude, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. One says you don't win. Like even in baseball, like how many times does a home run win a baseball game for you? Very rarely.
Right.
Like, you're getting the guys getting on base, the guys scoring. It's like you're trying to score. Just catch as many fish as you can. And I will also say this: too many guys discount a 2-pounder in a tournament. I would say, a 2-pounder is probably one of the most valuable fish in tournament fishing.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, like, obviously, if you're on, a Lake Erie, or you're on, like a Lake Champlain where you're literally catching, 30 or 40 3-pounders, like even in Florida, like if I had a limit of freaking 2-pounders that first day, that'd have been huge for me,
You're way more free.
Yeah. You give me 4 2-pounders and that 4.5, I fish day 3.
Yeah.
And too many people discount a 2-pounder, and you can't do that in tournament fishing. Like that's what going back to what you're saying. Like I just try and catch every fish I can because every fish is valuable.
Yeah, it's funny. Like the way I start is through my practice. I'm like, okay, where did I get the most bites? Where did I get my limit within the first like 25 to 30 minutes? So then I just have to worry about finding bigger fish the rest of the day so I can be more free. And I always try, and I suck at starting. Like I'll catch like 1 fish in the first 2 hours. I'm like, what the hell do I do now? And start like a man with my.
I've done that all the time.
But as soon as I get like 2 bites, I'm like, okay, now I know what to do. But I always try to fish for a limit and then call up from there. Always. I just feel like it helps out tremendously.
Yeah, and there is something to be said about that. Like just having 5 fish in your live well does so much for you, and I don't even know what it is. Like I could have had 5 12-inchers in there on day 1, and I would have fished a lot better. And it's like
you can slow down.
What would that do for me? 6 pounds?
Yeah,
been worse off than the 4 fish I caught. But there's something about like just knowing you have your limit that just makes you fish better.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah. Yeah, it just kind of gives you a peace of mind. Helps you move on. At that point, you try to obviously call up. It makes you just get a sense of being comfortable once you have 5.
Right. And it's really just like I said at the beginning, man, we're just out there trying to have fun, and catching fish is fun.
It is.
So, and it's just like, that's why we're doing it. And too many people take it too seriously, honestly. And it's like, just go have fun and just do your thing. Like, trust yourself. That's it. And you're going to do better.
Right.
But it's tough. Like, even though I know that I've been fishing tournaments for years, and I just know like all the times I do better is when I just literally go have fun and just enjoy myself.
And it's so hard to translate that into like a high stakes situation.
Yeah, it's like we said, Tuesday nighter, you're fishing for $200 and you paid $40 to get in. It's like, whatever, $40, I'll go spend that on beer. So it's like the Open's $1,800. You could win 50 grand. You could win a Bassmaster Classic berth. It's like so much more. But in reality, it's like, dude, you're just going fishing. You know, the prize is the prize, whatever it is. It's not. I mean, not many people get to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or be successful at it. A lot of people can do it, but they're not successful.
Yeah, we won't get into that though.
Yeah.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah, it's a much different podcast. But anything left for Steve here? We kind of covered a lot of really good points. Obviously, when it comes to mindset and obviously getting through a tournament and not spinning out like crazy.
Yeah, spinning out is tough. Like, it's very easy to do, and it's very hard to come back from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably the hardest thing to do is if you are spinning out is one, realizing it, and then two, getting away from it and like recovering. That's probably the most challenging part.
I think the recovery is harder than realizing you're doing it.
Yeah.
Honestly. Because I have fished tournaments and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Chill out. Like, you're freaking out. And then before I know it, I'm like, oh, the tournament's over. I just screwed up.
Yeah. If I realize it and I try to recover, a lot of times I'll actually like just drive out in the middle of the lake, sit down, eat a sandwich, and drink like Gatorade or water, and then be like, okay, what do I do now? Just like take a second to breathe.
Or
like,
some beers.
Yeah.
Out there freaking pounding some natty lights.
Oh, yeah. Basically water, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So, how about you, Bailey? You got anything?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Talk at all.
Yeah, I'm trying to limit how much I'm talking because I can't tell if my audio is good or not. It sounds like I'm glitchy. Am I glitchy on your guys' end still?
No, you're good.
Yeah. I just feel like I ramble a lot.
Yeah,
rambling's fine.
No, not at all. We appreciate it personally when people ramble. As obviously hosts of the show, when people ramble, it makes our job a lot easier, and also people are tuning in really to listen to you guys. So the more you talk, obviously, the better. But for me, honestly, I always kind of, and you touched on the fear of failure, and that was like one of the biggest things for me in the past few years when it comes to tournaments is like the fear of sucking and not having a good tournament and not, I guess essentially recovering from it. And kind of what I've come to realize is like no one cares about the guys that don't bring in, whatever bag, or if they do, like if you do have a crappy tournament, you might, get some fun poked at you from friends, and then they forget about it within a couple hours and you're on to focusing on the next tournament. And I think that's one of the things I've come to realize, and I've come to this state mentally where I don't care how I finish. I'm going to go out, put something together into practice, and then put it together in a tournament. If it doesn't pan out, then maybe I'll try to take a day to go backtrack and see maybe where I went wrong. And if not, I'm going to say whatever and focus on the next one, because it could have been anything. It could have been just a simple variable you missed, and the next time you nail it. So, yeah.
Well, don't get me wrong. I don't not care how I finish. I want to win every dang tournament I ever fish. I always want to win, but it's like can't be so worried about finishing well to the point where like you're gonna suck anyway. So I mean, and going back to that, when I fished that bass, my friend told me it's like no one knows who the hell you are anyway. So like if you finish the last place, they'll care anyway.
Yeah.
The only way that anyone's gonna notice is if you do well and make some money, and then people will be like, oh, who's that guy?
Where did he come from?
Yeah, who's that guy?
Yeah.
In that tournament, it was kind of funny because I would be fishing and there would be spectator boats, and they'd be like around, I was in Chester Frost and Tommy Biffle was fishing, and I was fishing pretty close to him. And I just know people were looking at me, look at this jackass fishing during this tournament. What is he doing? I know people were thinking that. But then I was whatever. I just always thought that was kind of funny. I was just some young guy just fishing next to Tommy Biffle.
Making the same cast. Maybe
Yeah.
talking through the day because he knows you're in the Derby.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
Look at this guy. He's over here talking to him while he's fishing the same stuff.
That was a fun tournament, though. Chickamauga is a cool lake. If you guys ever, I know Bailey's been there.
Yeah, he was there for a whole week.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Next time you go with a boat.
Yeah, it is a cool place.
Go on a real boat.
Yeah. I might have caught a giant if I did that.
Would have got your
That's
spot
funny.
first.
Yeah.
That's true. That is very true. But yeah, Andy, Steve, any last points for the folks before we sign off here tonight?
No, I'm good.
Just go have fun. Like, too many
Heck
people
yeah.
take it way too serious. Like,
Live a little, joke.
you're just going, dude.
So
Whatever.
it's actually funny. And Dustin, who's in the other room, he can back it up. Literally, like I show up to the boat launch in the morning, and I think everybody there knows who I am, and I'm joking around with everybody, talking because I'm like, you know what? I have to be loose because otherwise, if I don't do this, I'm going to be like clenching my fist, like, how am I going to catch them? So it's almost like it gives you a second to not think about it until you're actually doing it. So you're not having 1,000 thoughts running through your head. So I guess it's just try to find a way to stay loose and have fun.
I think that's a big issue a lot of guys have in tournaments is like trying too hard and not actually realizing you're fishing.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Andy, just to add on top of that, if people don't know who you are, then they can definitely know that you're there because you're easily the loudest person at the ramp.
Oh, because I'm coffee. I've had my breakfast. I'm like running out of my skin, all amped up.
Andy would be the guy. I would be like, "Who the hell is this guy? Shut the hell up!"
I got like for everyone. It's funny.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
Andy's
I'm
not standing up. Andy's standing, driving around on a trolling motor, talking to everybody, making comments people he doesn't even know, rigging up rods, dropping rods in the water, just yelling. It's mayhem in the morning for Andy before tournaments.
Yes.
All amped up on Red Bull or Mountain Dew.
Dude, those Monster Hydro drinks are really good too. And
Yeah, I usually get like the Monster Javas in the morning because they don't hit you quite as hard as coffee does, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
So
I got the wet wipes. You wedge yourself between the power pole and the motor.
hope the coffee doesn't power pull down.
Yeah, right? That's why you got to be nice to them co-dealers.
That's why. That's what the power poles are for. That's funny.
So,
well, anything else, guys? Before, if not, then I think we're gonna tune off. I'm losing it already. Sign off for tonight. But Steve, dude, it's been a blast getting you back on the show and obviously picking your brain about tournament fishing. And hopefully, it's not the last time we get you on here, dude.
All right. Well, maybe next time I'll be on there because I won something for once.
Douglas is next.
Douglas. I've never been there this time of year, so we'll see. In April.
Yeah.
Should be up shallow. Should be able to do what I want to do.
Well, stay loose.
There you go.
I hate fishing offshore, by the way. Gonna have to do that again. But I did catch a 4-pounder doing it, Harris. So
there you go. Heck yeah, dude. Well, hopefully next time we have you on too, I don't have such a horrible connection and I can actually talk a little bit more. Hopefully my thing isn't janky. But no, dude, we're
covers up your face a little bit. It's all right.
That's what we need, right? The folks don't want to see this.
No, I'm just like.
No, dude, we're pulling for you. We're gonna be rooting for you. Obviously, we follow along with Bass Track for the Harris, and we hope you do well. Keep
hopefully
stay loose. And
did you guys actually follow that Bass Track?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think when you had 4, everyone's like, "Well, he's got 4. Is he gonna catch 5?" And then nothing. And then the next day, we're like, wow, movie's got a limit. It's like, oh, shit.
Like 7 pounds. 5 for 7 pounds, I remember.
Yeah.
5 for 7.
Somebody posted in that group chat we're in, and he's like, movie's got a bag. Like, we're all rooting for you. And it was.
I'm pretty sure it was Bateman.
It was what?
Bateman. Evan.
Baxter.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are funny.
But yeah. Well, dudes, I think that's gonna do it for tonight. Obviously, yes. Like again, Steve, we appreciate you coming on, taking the time out of your night, and go get them next weekend, dude.
Bye, Carter.
He's mad. I just woke him up. You mad?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Can't even see his face. Black face. Oh, that's not PC. But he's a dog.
Well, I think on that note, we're going to sign off here today. And as always, folks, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you guys on Friday.
All right, later.